ignorance of the law is not a valid excuse.
Are there any labor laws related to capital punishment within China?
You can sue your employer for severance pay. Before you come to China, do your research. Any kind of other visa is illegal.
All right then, Edgar, thank you very much for joining us. Can you please start off by introducing yourself? Who's Edgar? What essentially are you offering in terms of your services? Maybe a bit about where you're from, where you went to school and so forth.
All right, thanks Malibu for handing me the mic. Hey, dear fans, so my name's Edgar and I'm a lawyer in China. So I started studying law around 10 years ago in Shanghai. Before COVID hit, I came to Shenzhen. Okay, so I studied in Shanghai, but I'm now in Shenzhen. I've been in Shenzhen now for nearly 6 years now. So that's a bit of time now. A bit of background is I'm from Hong Kong actually. So Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China, which means that the laws in Hong Kong and the language in Hong Kong is actually different from mainland China. We use traditional Chinese, and in China we use simplified Chinese. So actually even the characters are different here. Okay, it's 50% the same. I would say 30% the same. Okay, and the language we speak is Cantonese. Whilst in mainland China, Mandarin is used. Okay, but in school I got educated in English as I went to a Catholic school. Okay, a real Catholic school. We had morning assemblies, and we had the father who would make us sing hymns. And pray to God every day. So that's why probably my English proficiency is a little bit higher than mainland Chinese people, because I was educated in English.
Okay.
So anyways, after finishing high school, I went to study law at Fudan University, which is one of the top 3 universities in China, basically. And I'm now actually doing a part-time master's degree as well at Peking University, which is the number 1 in China. Okay, I jumped from number 3 to number 1 now.
Yeah, I think when they do research on this university, they'll find out that it's definitely not even just top in China, but top in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, I think probably. So I'm doing also a master's now, but it's not in law anymore. I'm doing a master's in economics and management.
Interesting.
Because I already have a bachelor's in law. I didn't want to really pursue another master's. I wanted to study something different. Anyways, so how I got into law mostly is because I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was back in high school, I think I was 16 at that moment. I was 16. My Chinese teacher actually told me that. He said, okay, there are 3 universities in China who are providing scholarships, and if you enroll and you pass the interview based on your high school grades, so you can study any subject in that school, and you can get a scholarship. So I was like, okay, that sounds nice. I can relieve the burden on my family and go study at the good school. So I applied and I passed the interview, and it was time for me to choose a subject. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm gonna study in China and then come back to Hong Kong and be a constable. Okay, I wanted to be a policeman at first, because policeman in Hong Kong, if you pass the exam as an inspector, you actually get paid around 50,000 Hong Kong dollars per month, which is around 45,000 RMB, which is a lot of money. Which is really a lot of money. So I was planned on going that path. So I was like, if I want to be an inspector in Hong Kong, I think studying law in China will really help me pave that path. Because due to the specific political background in Hong Kong, if you get educated in China, and especially in politics or law, or something that makes you favorable, you get an easier chance of landing a government job in Hong Kong. So that was the initial plan.
Okay, that was the initial logic. Alright, okay.
Yeah, that was the initial logic.
Yes, alright.
So I actually wanted to be an inspector.
Yes. I don't know if you're still going to pursue that, but we're glad that you're now able to help so many people with your law degree. Let's move on to the second topic. So what would you say are 3 words that can describe labor law within China?
Labor law in China, I would say number 1 would be visa requirement. Okay, that is the most important
visa requirement.
Labor law.
Okay.
Visa requirements. Number 2 is labor contract. Okay. Labor contract. And number 3 is social insurance. Okay. Social insurance. Yeah.
All right. So
go a bit.
We'll go into depth. So for now, we just wanted 3 words that for you sum up labor law within China. Then again, what are the 2 of the most important labor laws that a person who plans on working in China needs to know before they leave their home country. If I am about to come to China, what would you say are two of the most important labor laws I need to understand more about?
The first one would be more on work permit regulations. Okay, so in China, to work legally in China, you need a work permit and a residence permit, which means that working on a tourist visa, business visa, a student visa, entrepreneur visa, a cabin crew visa, any kind of other visa, is illegal.
It's illegal.
And a lot of people don't even know this.
Yes.
They think that, oh, just because I'm married to a Chinese person, I can work in China and get a job and get paid. But actually, that's illegal, my friends.
Because it's a spousal visa. Yes.
Yep, that's number one thing that you must know before working in China.
Okay.
The second thing, yeah.
No, you can go on. I was just saying, okay.
So the second thing that you must know is, I would say, would be the labor contract. So why do I say this is important? It's because a lot of employers will use fake labor contracts when they hire you.
Right.
So they will make you sign two contracts. Okay, one is for the government to avoid taxes, and the other one is the real one where your actual wage is reflected. And the second one is the one that actually holds legal effect here.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Okay, so that's quite interesting with what you just mentioned. So how do I then protect myself against the second one? So here I am being employed by a company A, and with them employing me, I receive a contract, and I don't know anything about the secondary contract that they're issuing to the government. Is there any way that I can access it without making them look like they're not trustworthy? If that makes sense. How can I protect myself against this legally binding document that is enforceable versus the fake one that they're giving me?
okay,
that makes sense.
So, yeah, obviously. So, number one, obviously, you want to check before you put your name on any legal document in China. Okay, you want to check with a lawyer. So usually the government fake document is only in Chinese. It's a government template where they just put in some numbers and they put in a salary of say 5,000 RMB, because anything below 5,000 is untaxed.
Yes.
Okay, there's no personal income tax on that.
Okay.
Or very little. So you can basically check the numbers and you'll find out that, okay, this looks like tax evasion to me, my friends, right?
Okay.
So that's the number one giveaway. If it's only in Chinese, that's the number one giveaway. Number two giveaway is the number on the contract. 5,000, that's the warning light going off. Okay? Yeah. So anyways, so you want to ask your employer to provide you with a bilingual contract. Okay. Which is, and you only want to sign one contract instead of two.
Oh, right. Okay, I see. So the best way to avoid it is to never sign two contracts, one Chinese, one English. So the contract has to always be bilingual, both in English and Chinese, essentially. And you know that you're signing one legally binding contract. All right. Great. Yes, so in the case that an employer is breaching parts of the contract as mentioned, so what would be the best thing that a person can do? What would be the first thing and the best thing for an employee to do in that instance?
When the employer is breaching the contract, right?
Yes, so you maybe, for example, they mentioned that they're going to provide medical insurance, and then you get this side, they don't provide medical insurance, for example. But that was a legally binding part of it. So it's there in the contract, but it's not there in real life. So what then happens? What is the best thing to do, or what is the first thing that one should do in that instance? Is it running to the police, running to a lawyer, or what should they do, you know?
Okay, so I would like to separate this into two levels first.
All right.
So if you're a complete newbie,
yes,
like you know nothing about Chinese laws, then you should talk with a lawyer and he'll advise you on do.
Okay.
But if you have a bit of knowledge on Chinese laws, like you've been in here maybe 2-3 years, you've educated yourself on the basic legal system.
Okay.
You know a bit about the law. You know a bit of Chinese. You can file complaints by yourself. Or you've got a friend who can help you. So the best place for small disputes to run along to is called the Labor Supervision Brigade.
Okay.
It's also called the Labor Inspection Brigade.
Okay.
There are two names for this.
All right.
So it's a place where small disputes are handled, and the inspector will call up your employer and educate them on what they should or should not be doing.
Oh, okay, I see. So I'm assuming a lawyer will come with fees, and the one where you head straight to the inspection officer, I can't really say it in full, then that won't come at a fee. That is just like laying a complaint per se. So
that's right.
All right.
But you need a Chinese friend to help you with that, because they only speak Chinese.
Interesting.
Most of them don't really speak English that well, unless you're in a big city like Shanghai or Beijing. Then they're well educated there. If you're in a small rural city or village, chances that their English is as bad as my Spanish. So.
I get what you mean. Okay, so we've heard of various contracts being breached. I think that is like a common occurrence within China. And you find out, as I mentioned, like, an employer doesn't necessarily adhere to the contract. They are lying about maybe paying taxes or medical insurance or whatever that they had promised the employee beforehand. So what are some labor laws that protect an employee against such behaviors? Are there any labor laws that a person can stand on to say that I am protected in this way, in that way, and hence, I can comfortably go to the inspection officer as a result of this breach that is occurring?
All right. So, firstly, we've got to determine how big the breach is.
Yes.
Okay. Is it a Titanic situation?
All right.
Or is it just a minor scrap? Okay. So, I'll list to you a few Titanic situations where you can take legal action immediately first.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is unpaid social insurance. That's a big no in Chinese law here.
All right.
So everybody has a right to be paid social insurance, and if it's not paid, the law actually gives you the right to terminate the contract immediately. Or file complaints and even sue them.
Okay.
That's a big breach. That's a Titanic situation. Number two is if you're fired illegally, my friend. So basically speaking, if you're fired without a valid cause, most situations are considered illegal termination. Okay, if they fired you because, say, you were late one time to work, that's illegal termination.
Illegal termination, yes.
Yeah, a lot of instances are illegal termination. If they lay you off because they don't have enough money to pay you, that's illegal termination. So that's also a Titanic situation, and you can take legal action immediately.
Okay.
So number three would be deducting your wages illegally.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that you're supposed to be paid 20K, but now they're only paying you 12K.
Yes.
Citing, sorry, we just don't have enough money, or we're deducting 2,000 for your absence of 5 minutes. We're deducting another 5,000 here because you were sleeping on the job. We're deducting another 1,000 here because you looked at me incorrectly. So these are all Titanic situations as well.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then discuss internally, I would say. Any minor ones, sorry. I think you mentioned that
minor ones.
There are Titanic situations, which are the ones that you mentioned. And then the minor ones where I don't need to basically create a lot of chaos around it, and it's just a matter of having a conversation with my employer, or I don't even know what will be the legal steps thereafter. So what would you say is not a major thing to sort of blow steam over?
Okay, so the difference between major and minor is major situations are written specifically in labor law.
Labor laws,
contract
yes, law. Okay.
Yes, and the minor ones are the ones that are not specified. So for example, workplace bullying would be considered a minor problem in Chinese law.
Yes, okay.
Workplace bullying and harassment. Okay, this would be a minor situation. Delayed payment in salary for not more than 30 days. That's also considered minor.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But beyond 30 days, that's major.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And with the harassment, I'm assuming it's only if it's not sexual harassment. Sexual harassment will be major.
Obviously, yeah.
Yes.
If we're talking about, say, language harassment or just just typical bullying.
Just typical bullying.
Nothing that arises to the level of criminal law, okay?
Yeah.
Like if somebody knifes you, of course that's pretty major, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so while still on the topic of contract breaches, we know that the ESL market favors people from certain countries and races as well. So what are some labor laws that protect employees against discrimination of their race, gender, sexuality, and nationality? Are there any labor laws that protect against such discrimination?
Okay, I would pretty much unfortunately say that the laws in this regard are rather primitive, I would say.
Okay.
So there are discrimination laws
in
China, but it mainly protects the minority ethnic groups in China.
Okay.
So there are
in China,
more than 50. There are more than 50 ethnic groups.
Yes,
let's say Xinjiang Uyghurs. That's a minor ethnic, and the major group is the Han. Okay?
Yes.
I'm a Han.
Yes.
Okay. So if you discriminate against a Uyghur by not hiring them, so that's discrimination, and that's written in constitution law. So that's really high level.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, the law does say that you cannot discriminate against women. Men and women are equal. But there's nothing specifically on race, because you've got to know that there are not many races in China. There are only ethnic groups.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
China only has mainly one race here, which is the yellow race. The Chinese race. Yeah. So the laws in this regard are pretty much non-existent for now.
Okay, understood. So if that happens, you're sort of in the category where you need to go to a lawyer and sort of understand what you can do in such an instance when you can tell that it is definitely due to being discriminated against, but there isn't a law that sort of backs you up. So I'm not sure how that then gets handled. Do you perhaps maybe have like a scenario for us to say, if I am sure that my employer, I've heard of situations where employers would let go of people and say that, okay, we now have an American teacher coming, so since you are from this specific nationality, we want an American teacher to fill in this position. The position is still very much available, but they would rather have another nationality. So their contract was terminated on those grounds. So what would that person then do in that instance, since there aren't any laws against such discrimination? I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. So although there are no racial discrimination laws, there are labor laws in place.
Okay.
So if you were terminated based on your race or your gender, China labor law would basically classify that as illegal termination. You were not terminated with just cause. Okay, you were not terminated with just cause. It is unjust termination.
Okay.
So under this, you can sue your employer for severance pay.
Okay.
Which is
1 month.
1 month per year. But if it is unjust termination, you can sue them for double that, in fact.
Okay.
If we can prove that it is unjust. And the reason that you just mentioned, that's 100% unjust.
Okay, I understand. All right, and if an employer insists on you doing work that is not part of the contract and they threaten to fire you or to make the workplace hostile, what can you do in that instance?
Okay, so we gotta classify what kind of duties are outside of the labor contract. I would say if you're a teacher and they're trying to make you do janitor work, that would be outside, right? So obviously you can first reject this kind of duty because it is degrading. Okay, teachers are not here to clean toilets. That's the janitor's job. Not to say that being a janitor is
a bad job.
Not good, but it is just not your role to do that. So obviously we can decline something that is not specified in our job duty. But we gotta reject this in writing. Okay, we've got to leave a written track. Okay, we've got to leave a written record of refusal, and based on what grounds, we've got to give them a reason. But the reason would be, I'm a math teacher, so obviously, why am I teaching English here? Okay, that's just not.
Exactly.
That's just not right, okay? And it's actually illegal for math teachers to teach English.
Yes.
Okay? So one good way to give your employer a reason to not do something that is not within your job duties is to tell them that your work permit has a specific role in it. And it says, for example, you're a science teacher, biology teacher, English teacher. So the English teacher can only teach English because that's in my title. I can't be teaching French, right? So that is one really good way and legal way to reject work that is not entitled to your job duty.
Okay.
That's the best way.
All right.
Because it's actually illegal to do that.
Yes, it is. Okay, and what are policies regarding part-time work or side hustles within China? So I know that most of the time it's said that we shouldn't do any whatsoever, but you find people doing work there and there. What is allowed, what's not allowed? Is anything allowed while you are in China?
Okay, so the answer is nothing is allowed actually. No part-time jobs, no side hustle. Unless the part-time job is something that your employer gives you, your current employer, and it's within the job title, then anything other than that is actually illegal. You can't drive taxis for fun. Sorry, you can't drive Uber, my friends. And you can't do food delivery. So basically, the easiest way to find out like what you can do and what you can't do is to take out your work permit card, scan the QR code on that, use an app to translate that into English, and you'll find out that there's an address and a job title there. So you can only work on the address that is written on your work permit. If you work anywhere else, that's illegal. And you've got a job title there. If you're doing anything apart than what the job title says, that's illegal work as well. So this is the explanation of why side hustles are illegal.
Okay. And what are some of the fines or I don't know, the criminality? I don't think it's part of a criminal aspect,
No,
but
it's
a
not.
fine or penalty that a person might incur if they're found to be doing this. And even deportation laws. Could they be potentially deported? Because as mentioned, it is something which I think a lot of foreigners dabble in from time to time for various reasons, obviously. So what are some of the penalties, fines, and even deportation laws that are around this topic?
So China actually takes working illegally very serious, especially after COVID and the crackdown on the education industry. In the past, nobody really cared, to be honest with you. People were working on tourist visas, student visas, reunion visas, business visas. They entered China and left every 3 months to Hong Kong. Okay, we call it a visa run. In the past, nobody cared. Okay, but after COVID, everybody started caring about this, and especially when the crackdown came. So you get fined up to a 5-digit number. Okay, which is around 10,000 to 15,000.
Okay.
And you will get detained for up to 15 days.
Okay.
Okay, and sometimes there's even more. Because a lot of people, apart from working illegally, they also reside illegally in China.
Yes.
They overstay their visas.
Yes.
So I've seen expats being jailed for 30 days. And even after the detention, they're still jailed because they get deported afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. So until the time that the government can find a plane to put you on, they'll keep you in custody.
Keep in custody.
So that's why a lot of people stay 60 days in a detention center until they are actually deported.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the next one is how can employees protect themselves against being on the wrong side of the law in China? So what is the best way to really understand that this is allowed and this is not allowed? As mentioned before, some people don't even know the most simplest of laws, which is ensuring that they are using the right work permit or visa, right? So how can I then ensure that I really understand the labor laws? So where can I find more information regarding the labor laws within China so that I'm always in the right or I'm always in the know-how of it all, basically?
Okay, then in this case, you want to check out my website.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you the link.
Yes, definitely.
Later.
We'll put it on the description box.
Website and my YouTube. If you're not bothered to read, then go to my YouTube channel.
Okay.
If you would like to do some reading, go to my website.
Okay.
Then there are over 200 articles on the laws of China, on every aspect, basically, not just labor law.
Yes. Okay,
right.
Thank you. I think that was a straightforward answer. So if anyone is interested, there's a YouTube channel, there's a website for readers. So definitely. And what are the average lawyer fees in China and what is the best way to go about finding a suitable lawyer? So if I'm in trouble, how do I know that this is the right lawyer for me and how much am I probably gonna, have to fork out in order to afford this lawyer?
That's really a good question because I've had experts tell me that they hired the wrong lawyer in the first place. Okay, they didn't know how to choose a good lawyer. So
Okay.
it's a really good question. So the first thing you want to know is communication. If you can't even communicate with your lawyer, he's not going to understand half your problems. So you obviously have to find a lawyer who speaks English or whatever native language that you can actively use.
Okay.
All right? So be it Spanish, English, French, okay, Russian. You've got to find somebody who can communicate with you very well, like native, mother tongue level. Okay, they've got to understand 100% what you want, not the translator type of voice. Okay, let me go to Google Translate and see what this means. That's not going to work, my friend. Okay, that is where most of the people who've complained to me basically told me. So if you're talking to a lawyer who's using a translator, you're talking to the wrong person.
Yes. Okay.
Number 2 is you should only be talking to a Chinese person.
Right.
Why do I say that? There are a lot of fake lawyers out here.
Okay.
We've got foreigners saying that they can practice law in China, but actually they're only entitled to practice in their own country.
Yes.
So in China, only Chinese people can practice law.
Okay.
Okay, you've got to be Chinese.
Yes.
If you're talking to somebody who doesn't look Chinese, okay.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're not part of the minority group, because I know there's some minority group that might not look as Chinese, but yes.
True.
Yes.
True. Very true. Yeah.
Okay.
A good way to find out would be to ask them if they're Chinese.
Yes.
Okay. If they look pretty white and they talk with an American accent, I think that they're probably American.
Okay.
And they are definitely not practicing law in China. They're fake lawyers. They can only be legal consultants. Okay?
All right.
So these kind of people, they can't actually represent you in court.
Yeah.
As a lawyer, at least.
Okay.
So you want to stay away from these kind of consultants.
Okay.
And number 3, we'll be asking this lawyer whether he has had successful cases in the past that are similar to your case. If he's got a track record that he can just tell you right to your face, then he's not lying, right? And if he can provide testimonies, that's even better. Like ask him if he's got clients that can vouch for him in the past. Like, what cases have you won? Is there any video testimony, written testimony? Okay, and that will give you an overall good picture of how good this lawyer is.
Okay.
And number 4, obviously, is to tell him your case and see how much he can teach you.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, you can find out like how good he is by asking him questions about your case. And mostly, if you're talking about labor law, ask him about the labor law regulation regarding foreigners in China. If he doesn't even know what a work permit is, then he probably hasn't taken any foreigner case in his life before.
Okay.
Because the laws of foreigners are more complicated.
Yes, definitely. All right, and what about the lawyer fees? So what is the average lawyer fees? Or, I know it varies from case to case, but what could be the starting, range, basically?
Okay, I'm gonna talk about 2 types of lawyers here. Okay, if you're talking about a local lawyer in a small city, then I think a 4-digit number would do for a normal case. A 4-digit number would do.
Okay.
But if you're these lawyers usually are the no habla inglés.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't really speak English that well. So you can hire them for, say, as low as 5,000 RMB.
Okay.
Okay. And you can go for this kind of lawyer if you're well versed in Chinese.
All right.
You can save yourself a good buck on this.
Definitely.
And then we go to the more expensive one, which are the ones who are usually based in Shenzhen, Beijing, or Shanghai. The reason why these lawyers are more expensive is mainly because it's just more expensive to live in these 3 cities.
Cost of living is higher.
Double or triple. So we've got more expensive rents here and salaries. So obviously, it's just going to be double or triple the fee. But you usually get better lawyers in these big cities because only good lawyers can afford to practice in these cities, to be honest with you. And the good lawyers who are well educated usually aren't willing to go back to a small city and earn that low salary.
Yes.
They will usually aim for the higher paying cities and earn more legal fees.
Okay.
Right.
I see.
So for this kind of lawyer, their fees always start from a 5-digit number, basically.
Okay.
You're looking at least 10,000 at least.
10,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And when do you pay it? Is it upfront? Are they like payment plans? When exactly? Like the moment that I walk into their office, am I parting with the 5 digits, or is it like something that happens gradually? So that'll also be like, because I think for a lot of people, they'll go through quite a number of situations, but then they're thinking, oh, the lawyer fees are going to be so high, and they rather would not go and visit a lawyer as a result. So, but if now they have an idea that, okay, this is how much I'm going to part with, and this is when I'm going to part with it, it's going to help them to make a far more informed decision to say that, I think I really need to go and see a lawyer, if that makes sense.
Right. So usually speaking, you'll first pay a small consultation fee if you go in to the lawyer's office and visit him. Okay. So for me personally, I don't charge for typed consultations because that just takes like say 5 to 10 minutes of my time, and I'm happy parting with that. Okay. So, but if you want to visit me in person, that'll actually take up an hour of my time because you'll bring materials with you, like contracts, and I'll actually have to go through information.
Okay.
So, they'll have to charge an hourly rate. So, if you're talking about somebody who's, say, a partner in a law firm, they'll charge you at least 3,000 to 5,000 RMB per hour
for that
for a consultation fee.
Okay.
Right. And then after the consultation session, you have a better idea of whether or not this case can be pursued. And they'll usually charge you a retainer upfront, which is, say, at least a 5-digit number, as I just mentioned. And usually, say, 10% of what the disputed amount of the case is upfront. So let's say the disputed amount of a international trade dispute is 1 million RMB. Then the lawyer will probably charge you at least 50,000 to 100,000 RMB upfront to take the case. And when the case is finished, there is a success fee based on how much they help you win. So that's usually, say, 10 to 20% as well.
Okay.
But it all really depends on the complexity of the case.
Okay. So, but the 50,000, you'd have to, as the client, I would be responsible for that. That whether I lose or I win, I have to pay that 50,000, and I have to part with it, make peace with it, and then the success fee is obviously with the successful stories, which hopefully that will be the case, and everything.
That's right.
All right. Okay.
That's right.
And when coming to this is this is a very hectic topic to get into. So when it comes to capital punishment, right, I think a lot of people, when they think about China and Chinese law, they're already thinking about capital punishment. Are there any labor laws related to capital punishment within China?
Unfortunately, no. Yeah.
So, I don't think we'll get into what goes into capital punishment. I think people can do research on that, but I was just interested in finding out if there are any labor laws related to it. And what advice would you give to individuals intending to work in China?
Before you come to China, do your research. Do some basic research. Before you sign a contract, do research and contact a lawyer. So a simple way to do research on whether or not you want to work for somebody is to ask other expats in China. There are many Facebook groups out there. You can just Facebook groups, Facebook pages, which you can easily enter and ask questions about, like, I want to work for this employer. What are their ratings? Has anybody worked for them? And do you have a positive experience? The expat community is a very tight-knit community in China, and people tend to help each other a lot. Apart from Facebook groups, you can enter WeChat groups, and there are lots of groups specifically designed for different industries. So you really want to ask different people, like, have you heard of this company before entering a contract with this company. Do your research.
Just to take you back on one of the things that you mentioned with the contract, you said the best way to ensure that you avoid a contract that is not legally binding within China is to take it to a lawyer. So how much would that cost? If I was to say, okay, I'm in maybe America or South Africa or the UK, and I would like to ensure that the contract that the employer gave to me is the correct one. So how much am I probably gonna part with if I do look into that, just on that contractual analysis, basically?
Usually lawyers would charge you an hour of the time for this.
Okay, so that's an hour rate. Okay. All right. And do you have any closing thoughts or remarks? And additionally, how can people reach you if they would like to get more information regarding your services or just get to know you a bit more. I don't know if you have anything of that sort. But yes, any closing remarks and also
yes, certainly.
context?
There's one phase that I learned when I was in law school, okay, and I really believe that this phase still reflects on the legal system today. So it goes, ignorance of the law is not a valid excuse.
Yes.
Okay, so just because you don't know the law doesn't mean that you're not guilty.
Not applicable, yeah.
That's right. So it is everybody's responsibility to educate themselves on the basic laws of any country before you enter that country. For example, it is legal to smoke weed in some countries, but it is not legal in China. So if you've grown up in an environment where it's legal to smoke pot every day, you might want to consider before you bring the pot with you into China, because it's illegal. And it's not just criminal law, it's labor law as well. If you don't know the basic legal system here, you're just putting yourself at a lot of risk.
Risk of exploitation.
And people,
yes.
Yes, and an ethical businessman is not just your employer. It might be the person who sells you a TV. So people will bully you if you do not know your rights. And I think this is applicable to any country in the world.
Yes.
So you must do some basic homework and research before entering the country, or in the best case scenario, you'll get defrauded by your employer. In the worst case scenario, you find yourself in jail. So, and if you go to the police and say, "Hey, I didn't know,"
that's not.
I didn't know. That's not going to work.
Yes.
Yeah. They'll put you in jail regardless. I didn't know. I don't know. How would I have known? That is not.
Yeah.
But I hear this every day. I hear this every day. I didn't know. But it's just not going to work.
Yes.
So the final words are: please take a bit of time to do a bit of research before entering any country.
Any
in this
country.
world.
Yes.
Any country.
All right. So how can individuals get a hold of you? So we will definitely put your website and YouTube channel in the description box. Any other place that they can get a hold of you? I know you have a WeChat group. So maybe, I don't know if we can have the link or
I'll
it as
send in my QR code for WeChat. So if you don't have WeChat, you can also contact me on Facebook.
Okay.
Or my website. I have a Facebook page that I'm actively running. So I check that every day.
All right.
For private messages.
Okay.
Or even Instagram if you if you don't use Facebook, because a lot of youngsters don't use Facebook.
Yeah, they don't use Facebook whatsoever.
They're more Instagram. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Edgar, for joining us, and thank you for the valuable insights.